Yeah,
okay. Without any further ado, I guess I should start. Today's presentation is really a copy of the presentation I gave a few weeks ago to the Australasian Campuses Towards Sustainability Conference in Melbourne, where I gave a paper on the role of higher education institutions in society's journey towards sustainability, and particularly the role of business schools and the importance of embedding sustainability concepts in our business programs. So that went down really well. I actually gave two presentations at the conference. One was a workshop, which was a practical application of these concepts, and the second one was the paper itself. So what I'm focusing on today is the actual paper, which presents the case for embedding sustainability concepts in business programs. The outline of today's presentation is really to talk about how we do this and how it fits into sustainability as a journey. So I'm going to talk about sustainability as a journey from two particular angles. The first angle is that really it's a journey towards finding a balance between the environment, equity, and also, so really it's about the 3 E's or the 3 P's, which is, as you know, people, profits, and planet, that it's a journey to finding that balance. It's also a journey of learning and the importance of education for sustainability in propelling us along that journey. I want to talk a little bit about values, individual and social values, and how these impinge on the kind of decisions that we make as individuals and society. I want to talk about the framework that I'm going to use to look at values is Maslow, Hofstede, and Schwartz, and that framework looks at individual and social values. I'll also be looking at how values change over time and some empirical evidence that shows us that this is actually happening. Then I want to talk very briefly about the process that society goes through to transform towards sustainability, and there's a really neat model here that I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about. And within that model, we'll see what the contribution of universities and higher education institutions is, and in particular the role of business schools in propelling that journey of society towards sustainability. I want to talk about how we connect the curriculum to education for sustainability in particular, although not necessarily in CQU as such right now, but in general. And I want to talk also then a little bit about the Australian situation. Where are we now? What kind of push and pull factors are we looking at the moment? And then I'm going to wrap up with some conclusions and recommendations for future action and the next steps that we hope to be going on here in this particular university. So first of all, let's talk about what sustainability is. That in fact, it's really about going on a journey to finding a balance between competing interests of environment, economics, and between equity, trying to balance people, profit, and planet, and that these are competing interests, and there's really two ways of looking at it. The definition that's mostly used is this, I jumped in. I was trying to use the pointer. Is this Brundtland definition of sustainability is the definition that most people are using. There are lots of different definitions, but this is the one that I've adopted in this paper and the one that's most used around the world. And this is one that talks about meeting our current needs, this current generation's needs, without compromising the needs of future generations to meet their needs. So when we talk about sustainability, we're talking about trying to find a balance between planet, people, and profit, and between now and between the future generations as well. So there's a lot of things to balance. Go back to the pointer here. The diagram on the left-hand side shows a very simple and mechanistic approach to sustainability, one that's been taken by some people and some countries, which is simplistic, and it tries to find an interface between the three, try to find a very small common ground. The approach on the left-hand side is very much a mechanical, functional, instrumental approach, which tries to fix the system that we've got now. That one is not going to ensure sustainability. The one on the right is the one that we need to go on. The one on the right is where we take a holistic systems approach to sustainability. This one here that looks at the economy, society, and in the environment as nested systems. These are all nested within each other. So they're not separate, they're nested. And the journey to this balance here is the one that's most complex and the one that requires not a mechanical approach but a system change or a paradigm shift. Now, along with these two different approaches are two different ways of learning about sustainability. The one on the left-hand side shows the simple approach, the mechanical or instrumental approach, that, and it's a complicated diagram, but what it shows is a graduated, very simple model of learning. This is a graduated, simple model of learning that goes up very simple steps from, first of all, just raising awareness, moving on to from awareness to knowledge to attitudes to skills and to then being able to take collective action. Again, that's a mechanical, instrumental and very simple approach. But the one that's going to help us with the paradigm shift is the one on the right-hand side, which shows that learning is a very difficult, learning for sustainability is a difficult concept. It's something that we call a threshold concept. It's not something that can be learnt in steps. It's something which is complex, difficult, and it's, as a threshold concept, it has particular characteristics. One of the characteristics is that we have to put a lot of energy and a lot of time into it, that we don't just learn it like we learn from maths to fractions to calculus. It doesn't get learnt that way. It's something that requires a reframing, a reorganization of the way we think about things. It's a paradigm shift. And it's not a simple process. Because it's not a simple process, it's complex, and it's, as I said, it's called a threshold concept. And as a threshold concept, it has these particular characteristics. One, it transforms us. All threshold concepts change the way we see the world. Two, it's integrative. It brings together lots of different areas. Three, it's bounded. It is contained within a particular conceptual space. And four, it's irreversible. Once we learn it, we don't go backwards. It changes the way we see the world. This is not about adding another software program. It's about changing the operating system. It's a paradigm shift. And it's a very powerful concept, one that is not easy to learn, but it can be learned. It's a journey which is not predictable and which is not prescriptive, but it is a journey. How do we learn for it? Well, education for sustainability, is one of the most powerful ways in which we can learn this particular threshold concept. It's a journey. Education for sustainability is one that will help us get there. This journey, this threshold concept, doesn't just occur for individuals. It occurs at every level in society. It occurs at the individual level, the family level, at the organizational level. It occurs at the community level. It occurs at the regional level, the national level, and at the global level. It's a journey. It's a journey that is difficult, complex, but it's a journey that we have to all go on. And that journey that happens at every level is the next paper I'm going to write about, but I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. So are we there yet? Are our students there? Are we there? How are we going on this journey? Well, that depends on our values and how we see the world and where we are. So this is where I'm going to talk about values, and in particular, students from developed countries, from developed economies, not from developed countries. I want to clearly distinguish that I'm not talking about developing countries, I'm talking about developing economies. People from developed economies tend to have already met their needs. Now, I'm hoping everyone is familiar with Maslow's hierarchy here. This is a model which describes what motivates people. It's really a theory of motivation, and that reflects people's values. So people from developed economies have already satisfied their basic needs, their physiological needs and their safety needs, and have, if you like, travelled up Maslow's hierarchy to the higher levels. To the higher levels being social needs, esteem needs, and self-actualization. The developed economies tend to reside in this area here, and we can see this from the behaviour of most developed countries around the world in terms of their attitude towards sustainability. So we might want to ask ourselves, is this universal? Does this actually occur everywhere? We know that in developed economies there is already some acceptance of sustainability as an imperative, and we're already moving towards that. Is it universal? Well, a range of surveys have been conducted by a number of different people which show that, one, different cultures have different values. Hofstede has shown that in his model of cultural dimensions, has shown that different cultures have different values, that values are different across cultures. Now, this is not a 100% of cases, but in the main, this has been shown to be true. Culture affects values. Schwartz's value theory is another framework that looks at values between cultures and has shown that, yes, there are differences in cultures, but there is a leaning towards sustainability, that as economies develop and as incomes rise, people start to pay more attention to sustainability. And the World Values Survey, which has been conducted for 25 years, covers 78 countries across 80% of the world's population, shows that values change over time, that as income grows, people start to pay more attention to the environment. And this has been validated by the Pew Global Attitude Survey, which is an American organization that has shown that as economies develop and as incomes grow, people start to raise the environment as a primary concern. This has been backed up by the World Bank surveys. So essentially what we're showing is that while there are cultural differences, and while some of these relate to income, as incomes grow, people start to pay more attention to the environment. This has been proven over and over again. Here is a map. I know it's not very clear and I apologize, but what it shows is the different regions and the groupings. I just want to point out very briefly two things. This is a particularly interesting diagram in that it shows the English-speaking countries, the Anglo-Saxon countries, while they have very strong self-expression values, and that tends to reflect in things like individual decision-making and independence, we don't seem to have such a strong performance in terms of this area up here, which is the opposite of the traditional. This is the secular values. And it shows that English-speaking countries are dominated by their cultural paradigm, which, whilst promotes self-expression, is still quite traditional. 5 years later, the diagram shows not much change. The English-speaking countries are still there. So if anyone's wondering why the English-speaking countries have got higher incomes but haven't progressed, this would be the reason why. We have such a strong dominant social paradigm that actually acts as a hindrance against moving towards sustainability. And part of the reason for that is because we have such a strong emphasis on free markets, individual decision making, and a strong confidence in the ability of science to solve all problems. So that's actually acting as a hindrance, not as a help for us. Whereas in Northern European countries up at the top, they're the ones that have developed most in terms of sustainability. So the question that I asked there is, what about Generation Y? Where do they fit into all this? And I'm going to show you some survey results that give us an indication of what Gen Y thinks about this. Gen Y. A number of surveys have been conducted specifically on Gen Y around the world and have shown. Johnson Controls is a group that did a survey just this year and published the results that show that workers and students around the world are moving towards this self-expression and secular values that want their employers to account for how they treat workers, other members of society, and how they treat the environment. That's actually becoming a really important concern for Gen Y, for the workers and for students. Business students around the world, a number of surveys validate this. Beyond Pinstripes surveys over a series of years show that students want this in their business programs. They expect to have this material covered by their business schools, and it keeps coming up again and again. The Aspen Institute also has done surveys and validates these results. There is a convergence, if you like, in terms of an increasing concern for social responsibility and environmental sustainability. Although there are differences across different countries, this is the emerging trend that we see across developing and developed economies, particularly in the Gen Y area. So students expect it. But we might ask ourselves, what are we doing to help students achieve this? And I'll talk about that in just a minute. There is a crucial role for business schools, particularly in education for sustainability, to build in this capability that students are looking for, that workers are looking for. However, because there are differences in different countries and differences in different values, we need to position the education for sustainability in such a way that will attract their interest, because there are differences. So before we position education for sustainability, we have to do it in a way that attracts their interest and then scaffold their learning up through this complex journey of learning for sustainability. Here is a model that I promised earlier about how society transforms towards sustainability. And this is a model that was developed by some European scientists. And I think it's a really neat model. Now, you can't see the words in this diagram, and that's not so important because I can tell you what they are, because they're in Dutch. It was written by a couple of Dutch guys. So if you can't read it, don't panic. But this is what it says, that we have a sigmoid curve, and this kind of represents that threshold concept we were talking about. Society does transform, but what it requires is for all the cogs in the system to work in the same direction. If any of these cogs don't work in the same direction, they'll block the system, and that's what's happened in Australia. That's why we haven't progressed, because the system is blocked. These are the enablers, if you like, that will allow this system to change. At the top of the diagram we have social, cultural capital. Over here is ecological capital. Over here is economic capital, sorry about that, and over here is ecological capital. And these cogs in here are all the sectors or domains of society that have to work together to create this transformational journey. These are institutions. Let me get the mouse to work. Institutions, that includes schools, that includes the legal system, that includes all the institutions that enable a society to work. Over here we have technology. Technology has to work for it. We have in this called culture, which is a really, really important determinant of how we see the world and our world views and the choices that we make. We have the economic system. And in here, as we know, people who teach economics and who know about economics know that the economic systems, the rewards, the incentives and disincentives affect our behaviour. We've got here the ecology, which is the last big cog. And then in here we've got waste, water and energy. Now, these systems here basically move us and propel us up this difficult journey towards sustainability. It is a transformational process that requires all the cogs to work together. And
so, what are these black and grey areas inside?
Oh, that's just the system. That's the system. Okay. So, what we need is for the main domains in society to work together. We need all of those to reach a tipping point, if you like, to propel the whole system up to the next stage. It's a difficult journey, but it needs all the systems working together. These are, and the main domains in society are business, education, government and civil society, the media and the cultural industries. All of these affect structure, behaviour and culture. So we might ask ourselves, what's happening in the educational sector? What are we doing to build in and build up our capability to make this transformational journey? If we just look at it from a phase point of view, I'm taking away all the cogs now just to look at the sequences of how this transformational journey occurs. You can see that we've got the pre-development phase, which is where we start to become aware of the fact that we have a problem and we need to start making changes, to the take-off phase. Acceleration phase is when all the cogs start working together, and before you know it, the system has gone through an aha and transformed and moved up, and it's changed. Now, this journey of learning occurs at every level for every organisation, and it's the same process every single time. For this to happen, however, we need three things to work. One, we need the motivation of people on the ground doing things differently. Two, we need a top-down approach which mandates the change. And 3, we need the systems to enable the change, or the infrastructure to be in place.
So where do you place ourselves at this point?
Education for sustainability works in every one of these cogs.
No, but where would you place ourselves? Pre-development stage?
When you say us, who specifically?
Education.
I'll get to that in a sec. So, what is the role of universities? What are they going to do? Well, universities traditionally have 2 roles. One is a legacy role, which is about reproducing society as it is, and if you like, that's the right-hand side of the diagram, which is developing social capital. Or 2, we can be leaders and we can innovate to change society towards the better. So that's, if you like, the leadership role, which is improving social capacity on the left-hand side. So the balance between what a university does actually depends on the complex interplay of all the factors, internal and external, that university is subject to. All its stakeholders, all the pressures, internal and external. Where are we? You might want to reflect on that and tell me what you think. So, what can universities do to enable us to go on this journey? Well, universities themselves can, 1, focus on their campus management, their facilities operation, so that they can embed, if you like, into their own operations more sustainable practices. And that could be waste, water, energy, supply, logistics, all those particular considerations, hiring, everything, training, in the curriculum. And that's my focus today, is the curriculum. So in the content that we teach, and the way in which we teach as well, the pedagogy, which is really important. 3, in the research and knowledge management, the kind of new information that we create as researchers can and should involve sustainable change. 4, in our consultancy activities, I'm not sure that we actually have any consultancy activities here, but I'm sure that CQU in Rockhampton does. So particularly in its community outreach and support activities can have sustainability built into that, as can all the activities. Now, and in answer to Pramila's question, where are we? Well, sustainability seems to vary quite widely around the world. Remember the map that I had earlier on about values? Well, that actually is a very close predictor of where countries are on their sustainability journey. It seems that Western Europe appears to be leading the world in terms of this movement towards sustainability, this transformational journey, and that has made more strides than any other area of the world. In terms of higher education institutions themselves, well, they're on their journey as well. In Australia, most universities are in the pre-development stage. There are some limited universities that have gone in the take-off stage and very few in the acceleration stage. And I would name among those ANU as being in the take-off stage. Macquarie University is an excellent example of a university in the acceleration stage, which is very close to having achieved full transformation. This is in everything, Jonathan. Everything. Because they've got a bottom-up, top-down and middle infrastructure approach. They've combined all parts and enabled themselves to make that journey. So that's where we are. We're still in the pre-development stage. And all the research that I've done that's looked at how universities have performed in terms of sustainability around the world seems to suggest this. So, just reiterating that the strongest sustainability performance in any higher education institution, and in fact in any organisation at any level of society, requires 3 things to be in place. Top-down, which mandates the change. Bottom-up, which motivates the change. And the middle management, which enables the change through infrastructure and through systems. So what should we do? What's happening around the world? Let me quickly go through this. What's happening in business schools around the world? International surveys show that international MBA schools have got, again, a mixed performance in terms of sustainability, in terms of their curriculum and their pedagogy. Most of the advanced pedagogy and content seems to be connected to the individuals It's not been institutionalized yet. And it reflects the journey of the universities per se and the countries that they happen to be hosted in. There is some improvement over time. The survey results have shown that over the last 15 or 20 years that these surveys have been taken, particularly the Beyond Grey Pinstripe, showed that there has been some improvement over time. That's great. However, half business schools still don't incorporate it or incorporate it fully. So we're still playing, and we're talking here mostly about English-speaking schools, again, reflecting their position on the map that I showed earlier. Different approaches in different schools, not surprising. Again, this is a deliberate action that's taken by schools. So we'll get different performance because of different structure, different culture, and different behaviour. In Australia, that was around the world. What happens in Australia? A number of studies have been done in Australia. The most popular and famous ones are the ones that were done by Aries, that has systematically looked at business schools. Although when I say systematically, I must point out that most of the research was done on the internet. So they had a look at the curriculum materials. They weren't based on interviews. They were based on internet research. So we have to take some of their results with, I guess, a little bit of skepticism or a little bit of questioning. But what they did show was that there is very little integration of sustainability concepts and literacy across the curriculum. However, what they did do was that they followed up with the top 8 schools in Australia, the top 8 business schools, MBA schools, and they did action research with those schools. So over and through that action research project, they've been able to embed some sustainability principles into the top 8 MBA schools in Australia. Tier 2 and Tier 3 schools, well, I guess you can probably figure out what's happening with them. And I would put us in the Tier 2 schools. So those top 8 schools, yes, they're starting to move towards sustainability, and there has been some integration. The deans of the business schools have stood up and said that they're adopting the principles of the responsible management education, and they're actually now starting to embed these principles across the curriculum. But it's still not mainstream across all business programs yet. It's still only in some MBA schools, in some universities in Australia. So, sustainability is very poorly represented in almost all core courses in undergraduate business programs, and that's my argument, is that we need to embed it in all core courses, in all business subjects, in all universities. How do we do it? Well, research has shown that building sustainability literacy happens in a series of steps. And whilst I said it's not a straightforward step, and these steps are not contiguous and they're not prescriptive, but it tends to work this way. 1, modify the curriculum content. And this is something that I've been doing in my own teaching. As an individual teacher, I can't change the assessment and I can't change what I'm teaching, but I can embed sustainability principles into it as an individual. The next step, and this is something I also do too, is to foster a critical thinking by our students and to deliberately explicate the values underlying the disciplines that we teach. What are the values that sit underneath what we're teaching them? Get students to take a critical approach and to reflect. This is outside my particular control, but the next thing that would help students learn is experiential learning and social learning. Part of this can be done through group work, but experiential, I guess, would be through work-integrated learning, case studies, etc. Systems thinking is the next step up. This is where we combine, and this, I think, is an opportunity for us to bring back and to heighten the importance of the capstone courses in our business programs as well. Interdisciplinarity, again, is the capstone course. And finally, and this is an area that I think has a lot of potential, perhaps not so much at this campus, but at other campuses, is to connect the curriculum to the local context. Yeah? And to have a strong research program. To embed it into the research program as well. So, it's about navigating the journey. How do we navigate the journey? This is a journey. How do we navigate it? Well, there's a variety of different ways. And this is the way that it appears from research is the best way to get it into the curriculum. And remember, this is a journey for everyone involved, not just the students, who happen to have a difference in values and different in perspectives, but also the teachers and also the designers of the course. We all have different perspectives, so it's a journey for all of us. Audit, first of all, what we're offering in terms of our curriculum. Where are we now? What are we doing now? Audit the curriculum. Audit our own knowledge and the understanding of our students. Map it against our objectives and then embed into the curriculum skills, knowledge, awareness, capacity, etc. And then gradually build that literacy. Gradually, if you like, navigate and accelerate the journey towards sustainability for each of us, as teachers and as students, and the campus. We can also connect our teaching to research. Again, I'm not so sure that we do that much here in terms of our campus operations, but it can be done for CQU as a whole, certainly. And connect our research to teaching, to policy. Bring it all together. Integrate what we're doing across the different areas, across curriculum, across pedagogy, across teaching and learning, across campus, across research, across policy. Bring it together and have a systemic approach to it. So, yes.
Is there any particular reason that you just focusing on business programs?
Sorry, I should have said this. I should have prefaced my discussion by saying the reason why I put this paper together is because for 5 years I've been trying to get sustainability into the business programs. 5 years I've been talking about this. And what I was told was there's no room for it in the business school, in the business courses, and that it's none of our business to teach this to international students. So that's why I developed this particular paper. But this is not confined to business. And if we go back to that diagram, that S diagram with all the cogs, education for sustainability needs to be at least in business, education, engineering, design. I would say that they're the four main schools that need to have it embedded in it because of the multiplier effects.
And
education.
Policy,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they're the multipliers. That's where you're going to accelerate the system up. Yeah. So I'm not focusing just on business because business is important. It's just what I'm teaching. But for sure, this needs to be widened out to a whole lot of other areas. Engineering, I think, is really important. Education, business. Yeah. Okay. So there's a role for us. There's a role for business schools to not just navigate the journey of our students, UG and PG, but our own school, our own faculty's journey, our own campus's journey, the institution's journey, the journey of the people that we consult to and the communities that we work with. And also, even our own academic communities, we have an opportunity to influence their journey as well. And government agencies. Jonathan rightly talked about government and government policy. We have a role. Also, government agencies as well. What's the situation in Australia at the moment? Let's narrow it down and say what's happening in the Australian business environment. Well, there are a number of push and pull factors. The push factors, these are the factors that will push education for sustainability through the business schools. We've got education for sustainability initiatives by higher education institutions. This can be pushed through the system by graduate attributes. Now, a number of universities around Australia have specifically mentioned sustainability in their graduate attributes. We haven't, but a number of others have. And those top business schools that I was talking about have got it in a graduate attribute. Or it can be, in the campus initiatives themselves. Other push factors are the individual curriculum initiatives in the school. Now, as a teacher, I can't change the curriculum unless I'm a course coordinator, in which case I do add in specifically mention of sustainability. I can do that, but that's me as an individual. It's not institutionalized. Research activities, the development of professional standards. Most people here will know, and people I think in other campuses will know, that the Australian Learning and Teaching Council is fostering the development of professional standards. The first cab off the rank in the business area is accounting, and the accounting standards, the third version has been distributed for comment. Sheikh, about this. And the Australian Business Deans proposed sustainability as one of their 4, but that's been taken out as an explicit graduate attribute, which is a shame. But it's still in there in terms of social and ethical considerations. So we need to teach for it. In terms of pull factors, there is a growing demand from business for graduates which have this literacy and this capability to be able to handle these sustainability issues. Business knows that it's an issue. The fact that universities are still acting in a legacy role rather than a leadership role, it says more about us than it does about business. Business is calling for graduates that have this literacy, that have this capability. But the organisation capability has been shown in recent surveys to be mixed. So business is calling for graduates because they don't have that the capacity themselves, but business schools are actually letting them down. We're not producing graduates that have this capability. And 2, there is increasing government requirement for companies to report against their waste, against their energy, and against their water. So, yeah, we're starting now to get changes in the regulation, in the top down, and we still haven't transformed. So it's really important that we start thinking seriously about this. Let's wrap up. I think I'm not bad as far as time is concerned. I'm speaking very fast, so I apologise for those who are having trouble hearing me. So let's wrap up. All countries are moving towards this sustainability value, and it happens through increasing in income, generally national income. Countries are moving towards this sustainability value, and business is one of the key sectors that will propel us towards this transformation to sustainability. There are few sustainability principles embedded in any of our core business subjects. They're just not embedded in there. There are specialised courses and they are tacked on in other courses, but it needs to be embedded so that we can start the process of transformation towards sustainability. It's not in accounting, it's not in HR, economics, marketing, finance, or any of the other core subjects, and we need to get it in there. So, as a result, our business graduates won't be competent in this area. They'll be confident for what business wanted, but not for what business will need. So if we want to be a great university in 10 years' time, we have to start changing some of the things that we do, including making our graduates sustainability ready, if you like. So they'll be unable to meet the requirements of professional bodies as they emerge, or businesses, and wherever they choose to live, they won't be able to contribute to that society's journey to sustainability, whether they stay here or whether they go to another developed economy or to a developing economy back home or somewhere else. They won't be able to contribute. So it's time for business schools to hop on the sustainability train. Choo-choo, up that S-pen. Up the S-pen. Let's audit our programs, audit our courses to make sure that we can find out where it is included, and if it's not included, to start to embed sustainability literacy into core programs. And I'm happy to report that Rakesh Gupta from Rockhampton and I have submitted a proposal to, I don't know who's there, a proposal to the Learning and Teaching section for a grant to seed a project, to audit our core programs, our core courses in business, and to start to embed sustainability, again through action learning, by working with the teachers and by working with course coordinators and program managers. Sorry? So we have an opportunity to be a leader here and to navigate the journey of ourselves, of our students, and of our graduates and all the people that we interface with. So, my usual. Thank you for your attention. And does anyone have any questions, suggestions, or comments? Thank you. Thank you very much.